So another group that people had a lot of questions about, who they were not even really aware of who they were, was the Insane Clown Posse.
Please, thanks, walk through the doors into the halls of illusion.
Which I'm so glad. The Insane Clown Posse are such an amazing story. Those dudes from day one, and this is before the internet was really a thing that everyone had access to. They took advantage of that shit from early on. They were some of the first people selling movies over the internet, selling videotapes over the internet, selling whatever merch they could sell over the internet. In a lot of ways, they were pioneers there. They grew this amazing cult following. If you look at the music, you're like, wait, people are ready to die for this shit? Like, what the fuck? It doesn't even make sense. If you look at the level of talent that Insane Clown Posse had, you'd have to say, man, who's done more with less than the Insane Clown Posse? The band is composed of two dudes, Violent J and Shaggy 2 Dope. The number 2, Shaggy 2 Dope. I remember the very first time I saw them, they had like fucking like white guy dreads, and they've always been painted and all that shit. When I first started hearing them, one of my roommates who was super into them he told me the story of the fucking Joker cards. So every ICP album was a Joker card. If you look at the early albums, they each had a different like little clowny character on them, and those were the Joker cards. So my buddy tells me, and this is shit that like only stoned ass college kids would ever give a fuck about. I may have some of the details off, so juggalos fill me in. He's like, dude, they said when they drop the 6th Joker card, the fucking world ends.
What?
The world ends? He's like, yeah, man, like what the fuck's gonna happen when they release that 6th album?
You fucking income fucking poop.
Why would Insane Clown Posse have the secret to the apocalypse? Could you imagine how funny that would be? The amazing world, the amazing reality we'd be living in if in Insane Clown Posse, all the shit we've gone through, we've been trying to like find, this is the date of the apocalypse, 1999, 2012. This person said this person said that. Turns out Insane Clown Posse had the answer. We were just waiting for the 6th album, and that was going to be the end of the world.
You dumb bastard.
Turns out the 6th album came and went, and nobody gave a shit, and nobody really even questioned them. Like, hey, are we going to talk about how y'all totally are bullshit? You said after the 6th card, the world ends. What the fuck? They just kept going on and acted like it wasn't even a thing. But like those dudes from day one, motherfuckers hated them. Cause like there's just a thing about them. They're so fucking punchable. If you just look at them, you start listening to them talk. Like fucking Shaggy 2 Dope. I've heard him tell stories about how like he's been beaten so hard that he shits his pants and like, but it's happened multiple times. Here's the thing, dude. You shouldn't have been beaten so hard that you've shit and pissed your pants multiple times in your life. If that's happened to you multiple times in your life, bro, you need to check yourself, because there is something about your personality that is fucking people up and forcing them to pummel you until you piss and shit yourself. And those dudes really like, they got no radio play because their music was like completely inappropriate in terms of the subject matter. There was, anytime they tried to do radio edits of their songs, it sounded ridiculous because there's so much cursing in it. Funny lines, like I could just think off the top of my head. Violent J he's trying to like woo a chick, and he's like, I can love you and treat you with class and have babies falling all out your ass. It's just it's so simple and fucking dumb, but it's also like, man, that's really brilliant. It's really hilariously funny. You couldn't put their videos on. Like they made videos and it showed like, you know, people smoking crack and people beating their wives and shit like that. And like, as I said, I respect just like this. It's a very middle finger punk rock ass attitude that ICP has, because they, as I said, hated from day one.
We don't have any favors. No, everybody hates us already.
And the Juggalos, they had this same sort of like fuck you attitude. They were fucking dirty. They were drug addicts. They were all fucked up, and they just did not fucking care. They embraced it. ICP's greatest accomplishment is creating the gathering of the Juggalos. At this point, the simple existence of the Juggalos is bigger than the music of ICP. Their fan base actually outgrew the need for ICP at all. My homeboy Andy Kapfenstein says the fact the FBI considers these clowns as a criminal organization is a disservice to the actual mafia. That's another thing. The Juggalos, they've outgrown the band and they've become really a society. And the FBI famously declared them a gang. So they've been watched as a gang. They've been watched as organized crime, just for the fact that they exist all through the country. They all come together at the gathering of the Juggalos. It's well known that there's a lot of drug dealing going on at the gathering of the Juggalos. Like, that's another thing. ICP, the motherfuckers who don't understand how magnets work, they went and spoke to Congress. It really is real life absurdity. And those dudes at this point, like fucking Violent J, I believe he's in very poor health. He's probably, I don't want to say, anything fucked up, but, he may not be long for this world. And the gathering of the Juggalos will continue. What these dudes did, the reality of it is they've built a legacy, as ridiculous and absurd as they are. Everything the Insane Clown Posse has ever made is completely fucking absurd. Like, they made a movie called Big Money Hustlers, and they're still wearing the face paint. They're clowns. But then they're in a Western, and like what? Why? Somebody paid for that? And like, I saw like a director did it for free, and then they said they would pay him on the backside. They didn't do it.
They told people that I delayed the release of the film because I was trying to negotiate to get a higher salary. I never received any salary at all.
Let me ask you a question, John. Let me just cut you off. Let me ask you a question. How much money did we pull out of our bank accounts and give to you for the movie?
You didn't give it to us.
Or give it to the movie. How much money did we give to the movie?
You put $110,000 of
Thank you. Get out of here.
How could you badmouth them?
So they put up 100. How many people would put up 110,000 of their own money
And
from
you
a...
coming in here
Yeah,
bitching
but
about you not getting paid? Get the
I'm
hell
not
out of
bitching
here.
about me not getting paid. I'm bitching about you guys lying about me. How
Get
could you
the hell
say...
out.
Dude, they have a video, and you can find it on YouTube, called Stranglemania.
Well, I hope you like blood. I hope you like guts. I hope you like wrestling, because we've got the best for you right here. You're going to see the likes of Cactus Sack squaring off against Lama Nama Numi.
And ICP just takes like this old like 90s and 80s Japanese and Mexican wrestling, and they do their own commentary over the wrestling, and they come up with their own names for the wrestlers and all that shit. It is some of the funniest material I have ever seen in my fucking life.
That they may be, but two of the most aerial, fat, pudgy fucks I've ever seen in my life. These two are normally a team called the Mushroom Boys. They're going head to head, belly to belly, ass to ass, fat to fat, to settle a score right now. We're seeing it live on Stranglemania.
I put up two videos that show Insane Clown Posse in the grips of one of their great wars, which was against Sharon Osbourne, the wife of Ozzy Osbourne. She was the manager for Coal Chamber. ICP took on Coal Chamber as an opener, and they fired them after literally 2 shows, and didn't want to pay. And Sharon basically said, I'm going to fucking sue you. They went on the Howard Stern show. They fought for like a fucking hour. It was some of the very best radio that's ever been done.
So you got to support his habits somehow. He needs money.
What
is all this with the drugs? What are you talking about?
Well, I'm just pulling that out of my ass or something.
Right.
Oh, you had your ass is here, isn't it?
You prop that half retarded junkie on stage every night, and he stands. They gotta stick a pole up his back to keep him to stand still.
This just sums everything up about you talking about my husband as a retarded drug addict. It's all cliche. It's all old. Your vocabulary is so limited.
She starts babbling at me in French, and I'm trying to make a point here.
They're both videos are up at around 1 million views, thousands of comments, and I would bet you if I broke it all down, it'd be like 98%. Fuck these clowns, these fucking pieces of shit. I'll slap the fuck out of these clowns. People hated those motherfuckers. And when you think of how hated they were, the fact that they were musicians and they weren't on the radio, they were not on MTV. And like as everything went on, they adapted and they were ahead of the curve. And in a lot of ways, they were really smart. Their most relevant moments came in conflict. They always had several lawsuits going. People would just run up and punch them in the fucking face. I mean, it was insanity. But the thing that ICP did that was really brilliant is they took everything that was negative, they took everything that was fucked up, and they embraced it. Everything that shitty a juggalo treasures. And in a way that's beautiful. Like, I feel like you almost need people like that. I don't want to call them bottom feeders because there's a negative connotation there. But bottom feeders are a very important part of any ecosystem. Their greatest battle came against Eminem. And really, that's probably the most relevant ICP ever was, because Eminem had burst onto the scene and become one of the biggest stars in the world. And he had a local beef because ICP is from Detroit, just like Eminem. And ICP are kind of like considered OGs in the Detroit area. They were some of the very first motherfuckers to ever come out of Detroit and to, as I said, embrace trailer park culture and shit like that. And in a lot of ways, they felt Eminem was kind of encroaching on their shit. If you could imagine, ICP thought Eminem was ripping them off. And like they were both big local bands and they would fuck with each other. And there was a lot of competition, I think. And so Eminem, once he became the biggest star in the world, he still had beef with Insane Clown Posse. So on his album, he has entire skits dedicated to, like, you know, having gay sex with Insane Clown Posse and, like, you know, emasculating them in that way. And, you know, it would be one of the biggest albums in the world and nobody would know who the fucking Insane Clown Posse was. You'd have to go find Insane Clown Posse and be like, oh yeah, wait, I fucking hate those guys too. Yeah, fuck their face, Eminem. So they had a very well-known battle back and forth with Eminem. Insane Clown Posse did, admittedly, really funny anti-Eminem diss skit things.
Hi kids, do you like anus? I let Dr. Dre fill on my butt for a chance to be famous.
But Eminem had become the biggest star in the world and ICP was still niche. So Eminem just had a much greater platform. What do they call it now? Like ratioed or some shit like that, where you just have a much bigger platform. So regardless what the fuck I say, I'm gonna get smashed. That's essentially what Eminem did to them. By the numbers, Insane Clown Posse is one of the better selling hip hop acts of the last fucking 30 years. It's almost like a weird fucked up Forrest Gump situation. And I say that as like a fucking thumbs up to those dudes. In many ways, they truly are clowns. And I don't even mean that in a bad way. Like their existence is just pure folly. And that's amazing. It's amazing that they did that. ICP, as I said, absolutely absurd, but there is a little something there. There's something to respect there with ICP.